Hello guys, I'm Alicia and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm actually super excited. I feel like I say that about every single video, but like this video I actually really mean it. I literally just finished this book and I can't wait to tell you guys about it. I just finished reading The Magic of Believing by Claude M. Bristol, and I don't know, it was such a good read. It's part in the self-help section, so obviously that's a different type of book, but it's kind of based around the principles of law of attraction, even though I don't think it actually says law of attraction or anything like that necessarily in the book. It focuses on more of the science of it, so it's really fun. So it was actually published in 2048, and I actually searched it up that The Secret, the other famous law of attraction book, was published in 2006. So this is a little bit older than that, which I think is super cool. For those of you who don't know what the law of attraction is, it's basically a law of the universe stating that like attracts like. So when you pair that with other things and other principles and laws of the universe, saying that for instance, we're all made up of energy, everything's made up of energy pretty much. So you can pair the law of attraction with energy and say that like energy attracts like energy. So you pretty much positive attracts positive, negative attracts negative, something like that. And that's super cool because you can use the law of attraction to attract or manifest, bring into your life things that you want. So it can be certain people, it could be events, it could be money, wealth, love, anything, literally anything, you could do that. So I'm not trying to say that I'm an expert. I literally just discovered the law of attraction I think about a couple months ago, but I'm super into it. And if you guys want to learn more, there are countless videos on YouTube and books and just everything on the internet about the law of attraction, and to me that is so intriguing. So this I think is one of the most original books on this principle, if that makes sense. So I actually heard about this book in a class that Tony Robbins was doing. If you don't know, he's a big motivational speaker, a big deal pretty much, and he was saying that this is one of the first books that he read. So that was pretty cool, so my dad decided to pick it up and I just finished reading it. One of the things I found really interesting about this book was it focuses on the science and data and studies behind the law of attraction and certain events. So it mentions countless professors and studies and just data that they researched about this. It explains experiments that they did and the results of the experiments. So that is super cool. It also brings up a lot of examples of different people that say that they've used the law of attraction in their life and what they've got. But more on top of that, it's talking about Claude Bristol, right? He has helped people implement it into their life, if that makes sense. So he was giving examples that they have accomplished of things that they have accomplished, like how they've attracted certain things, or in a certain scenario they did this and then they got this result. And I thought that was super cool because it was explaining exactly how people use it, and that anyway, I thought it was super cool. And in my past couple months of research about the law of attraction, this book came up with, I guess, two new ways for me to use the law of attraction. You guys should read the book to find them out, but they're interesting and I can't wait to implement them into my own life and see my results. So if you guys are interested in that, comment down below and I could do a video about that and explaining more about that. So kind of going on with my first point, I had a little list of things, a little notebook list of things that I wanted to talk about because I knew I would just start rambling and get completely off track. But one of the most things I found very interesting about this, as opposed to all the other videos and I guess movies I watched, is that it focuses on the science of it. So, to my understanding, right, Bristol is a very scientific guy, so he likes science, and they bring up religion in multiple times in this book, but they never focus on that too much. They focus on just the science of the subconscious and how you can use your subconscious to bring in things into your life, because like your subconscious is extremely powerful. And I was talking about different, like again pairing with the studies and data that they have found about the subconscious mind and just different portions of your mind that we don't really expect to be working. Okay. So I'm going to read to you guys a quote from this book. It's on page 150, and it's by Angela Lansbury. And she, I think, described the law of attraction in an amazing way. She said, okay, so I think perhaps I phrased that badly. I don't mean anything magical or current. Perhaps faith in the power of the subconscious mind would be a better way of saying it. And I think that, to me, literally sums up the law of attraction perfectly, because though it is, I believe it's used in religion and it interlocks and ties back to religion, which I think is super cool, because I think it's an easier way to use the law of attraction for many people without realizing that they're using the law of attraction, if that makes sense. But a lot of people believe that this type of stuff and like attracting things or like asking the universe for something and then getting it back in return is a very like mystical or magical or just kind of like some like nonsense that doesn't make sense. But when you phrase it in the way of like using the powers of the subconscious mind, it is a way more scientific spin on that, if that makes sense. So people, like, obviously we know so little about the human brain, and when this book was written probably even less, but just the idea is that the subconscious mind controls so much, and there's so much power hidden inside of your brain that you just aren't really aware of. It just baffles me. So the way Angela put it, I think it's a really interesting way of explaining it to other people. Also, this book talked a lot about the subconscious mind, and I found that super interesting because just kind of realizing the power of the subconscious. I think there's even a chapter saying power of the subconscious. What the subconscious is, and suggestion is power. So that is kind of relating back to the subconscious mind, and just literally I'm saying subconscious mind so many times, but literally this book talks so much about it, and I think it is one of the most intriguing things ever, because you kind of have like two brains. You have your like conscious brain, like conscious mind, right? Or like you have two minds, and then you also have your subconscious mind, but your conscious mind isn't really aware of your subconscious mind, if that makes sense. And they have different studies and experiments like proving that it exists, if that makes sense. But like literally, I don't know, that's just the coolest thing to me. So I really did enjoy that chapter, and I would really recommend this book if you want to learn more about that. Another thing I really loved about this book, I think I said it earlier, but the different examples of people using it. I said like Bristol talked about how he helps people implement it into their lives, but there's also a whole entire chapter. It's called Women and the Science of Believing. So it's pretty much an example of like women using it, if that makes sense. Women in history, like prominent women in history, using the law of attraction, or using like kind of like a magical force, if that makes sense. It could be, I don't even know, it's just the most intriguing thing. And obviously this book was written in 1948, so the bigger woman movement and all that kind of stuff was barely happening, and I think a lot of women didn't realize that they have the power. So I think it was super cool of Bristol to write a whole entire chapter talking about women, and he pretty much said in there that like women can accomplish so much, and we are so powerful, and just like our abilities are just like, I don't even know like how he explained it, but it was just so good. And I loved the way that he was empowering, he was giving examples of men mostly throughout the book, and then at the end he's like gave a ton of examples about women, saying that, you know, women can use this too, and women that have used this have become extremely powerful. So actually, yeah, now I'm recalling what he said. He said that women have a very strong motivational drive. When they put their mind to something, when they come to some decision, they will, I guess, like almost aggressively go towards that, if that makes sense. And in the animal kingdom, you can see that a lot. Like when a female, if her child gets separated and like even a human is by that child, that female will be so aggressive in like hurting the other person or animal that is taken her child. So that is just a very interesting kind of correlation to the animal kingdom and humans, and saying that just like our animal instinct makes us extremely powerful. And it is literally shocking to me that throughout history that hasn't been more relevant. So they like obviously gave examples, a lot of historic examples of women using the law of attraction and like in past history, but obviously there are plenty more that have spawned from the point when the book was written to now. So there are many more examples of strong female characters, but just the idea that Bristol found it important enough to put into his book is really amazing to me, and I really thank him for that. So I think literally by far one of my favorite topics that was mentioned completely throughout the book was, this is what I found interesting. I'm going to explain in a really long explanation. So there are scientific experiments and like thought experiments and just like really interesting, just throughout the book, and studies and stuff like that. So in those studies, basically they were talking about like teleportation and like that type of thing, if that makes sense, which I feel like would be the hardest thing to prove, but somehow they somewhat proved it in this book, and like with these studies and data. So they would imagine, or like a lot of examples of the the experiments in this book would be like having like some sort of cards or thing like that, like paper colors type thing, and then someone would like predict them or pick certain cards, if that makes sense, and then they would be the cards or colors chosen on the other end, if that makes sense. So that was just like very interesting to me, and the idea that these people, and if this makes sense, right? So doubt will literally kill the whole entire law of attraction. So if you have any fear, any doubt in what you're doing, it doesn't work, if that makes sense. So if you don't believe it's gonna work, it's not gonna work, because that's what you're attracting, if that makes sense. So kind of having these experiments, all these people had to believe so deeply in this that it would work. But if someone would try to recreate this experiment to prove that it was wrong, they would prove that is wrong, and that it was wrong, if that makes sense. Because they have this, will need to prove it wrong, so they're going to prove it wrong, if that makes sense. And it's not going to work for them, and they're not going to have the same results as the people that absolutely believed in it. So this book talks a lot about doubt and the idea that if you don't like 100% believe that it's going to work, it's not going to work. And they had it in multiple examples that people brought up, saying like there was a person repeating. So pretty much one of the tactics of law of attraction is repeating like a phrase. If you, for instance, want someone to leave or like stop talking to you, for instance, you could repeat like in your mind, he's gonna leave, he's gonna leave, he's gonna leave, or like he's gonna hang up, or like she's gonna stop talking now, or just like you're gonna repeat that multiple times, right? And one of the people was talking about how their son was sick, and he kept repeating in his mind that he is going to get better and he's going to get better, and just like over and over and over again. And at the beginning he said that he felt like he was lying to himself and that there was just no way that was going to happen. But then he actually started believing it, and then he's like the son started getting better, and then he believed it more, and it's just like it's more and more and more. So he, at the beginning, obviously had doubt, so there's no results at the beginning. But then he started believing it, and like the power started working, if that makes sense. So just the subtle mentions of doubt was very interesting to me. So I think I learned a lot about that, and just kind of reaffirmed a lot of things that I've been reading or watching on the internet. So I found that super interesting. So, okay, overall, I would say that this book is, well, you can tell that it was written in 1948, not by the language or anything like that, just by the different examples and I think point of view on the world. Like, for instance, the woman chapter would probably, okay, so if this book was written in 2020, this book would probably have examples of women and men sprinkled through the whole entire book, and then the woman chapter wouldn't really be there, if that makes sense. And they'd probably have like a chapter about like that, like this is actually powerful, and like having prominent people in the past history. But I think that now, since, or like back then, there was like a big women empowerment movement. I can't remember either during or after that time, where like women or even like young girls were more empowered. And I feel like then, as opposed to now, for instance, okay, I feel like I have been empowered to do certain things. They're like, oh, you know, you're a girl, you can be anything you want. While back then, they were talking about like housewives, or like not back then, but they were talking about different housewives in past history and how women could only be like housewives and doing this and that. But then when, like, for instance, during like the wars, the men would go off to war and then the women would take over the men's jobs and like do them exceptionally well. So that is a very interesting mention of that, but it does kind of hint at that it was written earlier. That's why I did check the year. But other than that, I feel like it is a very relevant book even now. And I think it's such an interesting book, and I'm probably going to reread it in the near future just to like solidify all the things that were written in this book and all the different examples of how to use the law of attraction, which I literally can't wait to try so bad. And yeah, so if you guys have any other law of attraction recommendations or questions, feel free to comment down below. You guys can help each other respond, or I'll do my best to respond or find responses. I'm learning so much about the law of attraction, and I'm so happy that I got the opportunity to tell you guys about it, and I think it's the most powerful thing ever, and using that in your life can bring extreme lasting change. And I think that people throughout history and now, when they tell people that they've used the law of attraction, you can literally see how much their life has changed, and I think it can help so many different people. So I'm so glad that I can help people, like people have been helping me through videos and stuff like that. And I hope you guys do actually read this book, because I think the different tools and things that they mention in this book are very, very relevant and very educational and can help so many people. So I can't wait to see how you guys do that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. That would really mean the world to me. Bye!